Hello everyone and welcome to the Going Against the Grain podcast. As always, I am Taylor.
And I'm still Dan.
Indeed.
Crazy.
Indeed. So this one, we managed to not get cancelled after the last one result. So we thought we'd do it again, you know. Second time's the charm. So we're going to do basically all the topics that we didn't do last time. We're going to do this time. So in the last episode, if you didn't see it, we went over social and political issues, and then health and debate topics. Health debate topics. Sorry, not health and debate. In an attempt to talk about as many contentious topics as we possibly can without getting cancelled, and we achieved it. But we ran over, so we're doing the rest of them today.
Yeah.
So today, first on the agenda is going to be education. So, Dan.
Yes.
The statement is, public prayer should not be allowed in schools.
It's a very tricky one. I don't think that the school should be able to tell all students, regardless of faith and cultural background, you shouldn't force them to be bloody, joining in with a Christian prayer. And likewise, I don't think you should be asking Christians, Catholics to be joining in with Islamic prayer, for example. I think the easiest answer is just remove it from schools, in my opinion, rather than trying to appease everybody under one roof, because it just won't happen. That's my thoughts.
I'm a similar boat to you, actually. I think that it should be allowed in the, certain, I think it's Islam, where you have to pray at certain times of the day and stuff like that. Absolutely, it should be allowed. It should not be forced, like it was at my school. We had to pray before we had lunch, and we would pray in assemblies and things like that. Yeah. Well, I say we, I fucking well didn't.
Good.
Because ever since I was younger, I've been an atheist, so it shouldn't be forced upon me. But also, it shouldn't be restricted. It shouldn't be banned. You should be allowed to exercise your religious beliefs, even as long as it doesn't impact on other people.
Good.
Right. Second up, we have school uniforms should be required.
You go first on this one.
No, they shouldn't. I think that it suppresses quite an important part of growing up, in that sort of discovering who you are and your style and how you want to present yourself to the world. I think that is repressed because of that. Everyone looking the same. It does nothing for inspiration or, developing oneself. I think that you should be able to wear whatever you like within reason. There should be requirements. We are talking about children. So, yeah, I know school uniforms are a fucking stupid idea, and it just makes everyone look the same, dull, boring, and like sheep.
Yeah, I don't fully disagree, and I totally see that perspective. If I go from a bit of a selfish point of view here, I couldn't afford reasonable, clothing that wouldn't have got me bullied. Like, a lot of the stuff that I wore up until the age of 13 wasn't things that I would have bought for myself, and I was given them, and they were awful. But that's what we could afford. So I think that the uniform protected me from a form of bullying in school. Not that I ever got bullied, luckily, but people would try. And I think that there's a lot of kids, especially clothing and aesthetics. Like, we all knew who the different groups were. So the goths, the chavs, the whatever you want to label them as nowadays. But there was obviously a predominant, especially in all boys poor school like I went to, like, if you didn't wear Geo Goy, Obey, or like big JD brands and stuff, which I could never have accessed, I didn't have the money for it, then I would have been bullied. Because the kids who didn't wear those things, they hated school because they had the shit ripped out of them constantly. It was horrible to watch, and I obviously tried to stick up for the people being bullied. But yeah, I actually slightly disagree. I sit on the fence of actually uniform prevents a bigger emotional negative for a child because they carry that with them.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I see your point.
Yeah.
Standardized testing should be abolished.
You mean like GCSE format stuff? Right. Oh, God. There's pros and cons for both on that one. I don't think that the current system is the best system for people with, say, ADHD, autism, whatever it may be, whatever labels coming out of the woodwork next. I don't think that it helps for those individuals, but generally, for 400 years, this education system has got us to here. So just because it's not easy for everyone, that's kind of the point. Like, school's not there to be easy. It's there to be hard. You got to learn. You got to develop. Like, I didn't have an innate ability when I was born to receive information in the way and the structure that schools currently do it. I wasn't born with that. It was just through practice and repetition that you become good at it. But certain kids, like the ADHD, for example, if you struggle to focus, then you're not going to absorb that information at a young age. So I see both sides of the coin. I'm intrigued to hear your thoughts on that one, Tay. Bing bong.
I sort of stand by the. It's a bit of a cliche statement, but that you shouldn't judge a fish on its ability to climb a tree.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? People learn in different ways. I'm quite an obvious. Me and Dan were talking about this earlier, actually. How while I'm relatively intelligent, I struggle very much with stereotypical academia. I'm not very good in a classroom being taught. Like, I learn in different ways. So I think that it does inherently sort of favour those types of people that are very good at auditory learning, that being told something is how they best learn things. Obviously there's different people, so you have auditory, visual, kinesthetic, and I can't remember the fourth one, but I was very much a kinesthetic learner. I have to be able to do it and apply it to a real world scenario in my life before I fully comprehend it.
Mm-hmm.
And standardised testing like that, I did okay. I've got 5 A-levels, I did fine, but I think I could have done a lot better had it been tailored, even just the teaching side of it, it had been tailored more to my learning style. So yeah, I don't think it should be completely abolished like that, but I think that there should be precautions put in for people who inherently learn better in different ways.
Quick question.
Go on.
Do you know what you got in your Year 6 SATs or your GCSEs? Can you remember what your results were?
GCSEs, vaguely. SATs, I got no chance, but...
Go on, GCSEs, what did you get?
GCSEs, I think I got... So I had 10 overall. I think I got 4 A's, 5 B's, 1 C, I think.
So we both went to school at similar times.
Yep.
Like the way in which lessons were taught would have been very...
Believe it or not.
Yeah. They would have been very, very similar between the two of us in terms of what our educational experience was. I would consider myself a learner of, if I listen, sit there, focus, make notes, I'll store it, right? I got 5 B's, 4 C's.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm saying that the schooling system kind of suited my way of learning. Mm-hmm. But the schooling system didn't suit you, apparently, according to you, yet you managed to get better grades. And I was predicted all A stars and 1A. Just bearing in mind.
I wasn't. I was predicted like C's and D's.
So you overachieved using an education method that you think is not right?
No, I overachieved by tailoring how I then taught myself at home.
Right. Okay.
Because I famously tell people that I never revised for any of my tests, which is true in the traditional sense of the term. But I would try and apply things that I had learnt to things in my life,
right,
so that I could comprehend them. But I never did any formal revision for anything I ever did.
Okay, interesting.
So I never took out a textbook at home, stuff like that. Not once.
How did you recall the school lesson to practice?
Just applying it. Sorry, I mean just applying it gradually as I go through. I'm not sort of getting to the end of the school year and then revising by then doing it.
No, you did bits weekly.
Yeah. It would just be from memory. I wouldn't. I could. How do I word it? I managed to do it better when I had someone explaining it to me and I'm reading it at the same time and then making notes. I could sort of get by. That's how I made it through the lessons. But yeah, I struggled, definitely. I struggled more than sort of a standard person. And it wasn't because I didn't understand it. I didn't understand how I was being told it works.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, that does make sense.
So once it... You might have seen it happen, because once something just clicks in my head, I just get it. All of a sudden, like I could not understand it for months, and then something happens, it clicks, and I go, "Oh yeah," and then I'll remember it.
I think that's the same with 90% of people, isn't it? Like,
I just mean how you get to that point is different for people.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I never revised, and it sort of came back to bite me in the arse when it came to my A levels, because I did a lot worse in my A levels than I did in my GCSEs.
Yeah,
I think I got 1B, 3 C's, and like an E in my
still
A levels.
blows my AS levels out of the water. I'd tell you that for nothing. There you go.
Yeah, so I have technically got 5 A levels. Really, I've only got 4 usable ones, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I just thought I'd ask.
Yeah. All students should have an after-school job or internship.
Well, I don't know if I've probably mentioned it on the podcast before, but I sold sweets and drinks, and I mean the list goes on. I ended up selling frozen Capri Suns, ice lollies, drumsticks. You name a confectionery, I've probably sold it at school. Then I was selling bouncy balls, butane lighters. Like, basically, I made money at school. I had an audience. They had cash on them. I sold to them. It was that simple. It was against the law, and I know that I had stock taken off me twice in 3.5 years, which they never fucking gave back, the little bastards. And I know all the teachers bloody drank them all, little pricks. I asked them for £22.50 at the end of the term, and they went, "What? You owe me my stock back, and you've just told me you haven't got it. So you owe me my money back then, don't you? So I want my retail value." And they're like, who do you think you are? I was like, well, I'm trying to learn business here, and you're shutting me down. You're stopping me from bettering myself and having money. But anyway, if we say that we had to do everything by the book, then yes, I think all kids should have a job or a responsibility that they have to get somewhere on time, perform a duty, complete it to a reasonable standard to get paid. I think in a capitalist world, if you don't have that, you're going to go into society at 18 or 21 years of age if you do uni, and you're just going to not have a fucking clue. People don't know money because they don't try and earn it at school. Well, try and earn it at school then.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I did have an after-school job, but even so, my view of money is completely skewed for, I think, the same reason. It's because when I first had a job, I would approach it like I approach school, i.e. coast.
Yeah,
and that doesn't work in the working world. You get found out a lot quicker, because realistically, the teachers sort of care if you do well. They don't really, but if you don't do well at a job, you fucking well know about it, and you can't talk your way out of it, like I could at school. So yeah, I think it shouldn't be forced on people. I'll make that very clear. You shouldn't be forced to have a job. If you don't want a job, don't have a job until you have to pay your own way. If you have to pay your own way, then you should have a job. Don't rely on taxpayers, you scrounging bastards.
Yeah.
But yes, I think that it would be... I think it could be sort of input into the curriculum a bit better about how to find a job when you're at school. Yeah. And, the provisions you could put in place. Because I didn't know anything about money by the time I left school. I know it's an old cliche that you don't learn to do your taxes at school. But it is true. I didn't have any perception of money or what to do with money. I still suck with money now. And I think a big part of that is the fact that I never learnt it. And I've just got into habits that I now can't get out of, or not very easily.
Yeah.
Not that I've tried, but, So yes, I think that as a caveat to that, I think it should be implemented into the teaching that young people get, in that how to apply having it. Don't just have a job, but how it can benefit you going forward. Yeah, I like that. Well.
I like that. Yeah. I don't like it when people go, the education system failed me on it, because otherwise, how am I an outlier? And it's not. I don't think you should always put everything on the education system when it's free in this country, unless you're going to private school. I think that the real answer should be better parenting. And I'm not saying that just because someone knows about money, they've had good parents. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think moral values should override money every day of the week. But if the current societal problem is that kids are leaving school without any understanding of money, look at the parents first. Why are you not teaching your kids about how much it costs to live in that house, to pay the bills, to get food? The kid I knew by the age of 7. Like, come on. Well, it's not hard, but it's just people not putting that information in front of their kids early enough, I think. But yeah, I like that point.
Detention should be abolished.
You go first this time.
Yes. And I will give my reasons why. When I say detention should be abolished, I mean detention in the guise that it was when I was at school, because that's the only context I have, which was You sit in a room and you do fuck all. Now, I don't think that helps anyone. In the same way, it's the same view I know it's a bit different, but the same view I have of the prison system. Obviously, there are outliers to all this, and where, you can't help some people. But I think that rather than just forcing a kid to sit in a room with nothing to do for an hour after school or during their lunchtime or anything like that, it should be skewed as more of a counselling session as to why they've ended up in that room, explaining, other ways that could have been dealt with the situation that got them there. And then they come out of that room a better person than they went in, as opposed to coming out exactly the same, just a bit more pissed off. It's such an old school system that it just doesn't work anymore because, teachers dish out detentions like, it's the only modicum of power they've got over these kids. So they just dish them out for fuck all. Like, I got a detention once for handing in some work 2 minutes after the deadline.
So you failed a task, so you had to have a repercussion for that?
Yes.
I
Do you
agree.
think it's proportional to make me spend an hour after school for being 2 minutes late?
Did you realise that was the consequence for your actions?
No.
I would argue here, and I understand that you're going to disagree with me forever, I would argue you're in the wrong.
I was in the wrong. Understandably.
Stops there.
Admittedly, they didn't tell me when the deadline was, but I know that doesn't apply to this.
Yeah.
You didn't make that argument based on that. They didn't tell me when the deadline was. Then I handed it in at a leisurely pace because I thought I'll take all the time I can. Yeah. And I got an after-school detention for it. Now, this is what I mean by the teachers. He was well within his right. Maybe I didn't hear it. Maybe I hadn't made a note of when the deadline was. I don't know. But I didn't know when it was.
Yeah.
Explained that to him. He said I was lying and then, just carried on. He was a dick, though. Mr. Nash, go and fuck yourself.
I love it. There you go.
But it just... I didn't get many, admittedly. That was one, I think, of 2 I got. Oh no, technically the other one wasn't. It was called an extraction. The other thing I got.
You got extracted.
Sounds like a medical procedure, but he deserved it. That was the only 2 I ever had. I was a goody little 2 shoes in school. Yeah. I can tell you what the extraction was for if you want.
Yeah, go for it, son.
It was a hot day and the field was pretty dry, where it goes sort of cracked and dry and scratchy. And this kid had been annoying me all day, so I waited till he was laid down on his front eating his lunch. I grabbed him by the feet and ran around the run track with him.
Oh my God! You didn't get expelled for that?
No, I got an extraction. And I talked my way out of it after 20 minutes. So.
Jammy little fucker.
Yeah.
Fair play.
Yeah.
So your answer to the question is yes, abolish them. Well,
in its current guise, yes.
Retune them.
It should be a rehabilitation session as opposed to just sit in a room and do fuck all.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, I'd say 50% I agree with you. Another 50% is that kids nowadays, and including when I was at school, we think that we're owed something. We, quite frankly, are owed fuck all. If you don't work hard and prove yourself, you don't deserve shit. Why do you think you're entitled to having an easy or a beneficial life without putting maximum effort in? I think the mentality shift has to occur in society where we start taking responsibility for our actions and we push ourselves. I think that if detention is currently the means of consequencing negative actions, then it has a place. I agree, though, that the format of just leaving a kid in a room for an hour is not good. When I got detentions, and I did have a fair few more than Taylor, although I did talk myself out of a lot of them, somehow. I don't know how. Well, it's probably because of my predictions. In a school full of, quite frankly, fucking Neanderthal kids, my predictions of all A stars and 1A, I was going to help the stats of the average grades, so they kind of let me get away with murder, really. They should make
a sequel to Straight Outta Compton called Straight Outta Boscombe.
Yeah. Oh my God, mate, that'd be fucking brilliant. Jesus. I must admit the punishment system is not the most beneficial in terms of getting the right results out the next time, but there does need to be punishment. And I'm annoyed personally, as an animal, which is what I am, I'm going to remember being whacked a lot more than someone going, "You naughty boy, what are you doing?" I'm going to laugh in your face if you give me words because they don't hurt me. But if you want to whack me with a stick and it leaves a bruise, I'm probably not going to fuck about again. It's for me, and I know that doesn't work for all people. I know it doesn't work for dogs. You keep beating dogs, eventually they're going to rip your head off, whatever. But I do think there needs to be bigger repercussions for people being little shits. I don't like it. Oh, you get suspended for 2 days. You just rewarded the kid with exactly what they wanted. You forced them to sit in that lesson. You forced them to learn and be a good member of society. But we all just want life to be easy, comfortable and soft. Fuck that.
Yeah, I don't agree with capital punishment, but corporal punishment. Sorry, not capital. Capital punishment's killing them. Don't do that. Capital punishment.
Some of them at my
corporal
school.
punishment, I don't agree with. It doesn't work. No. But anyway, religion should be taught in schools.
Am I going first this time?
Entirely up to you, sir.
I'm going to say yes, it should be. Only because roughly 80% of the world they live by a religion. So if you're not trying to understand the variations and why, how are you ever going to have a very well merged society? Like in London alone, I remember seeing this stat about 12 years ago. I think in London alone there's something like 180 different religions living in one city. Now, if you don't know about what Hinduism is, you don't know about Sikhism or, the Muslim faith, and you've come from a very Christian background, you're going to have a stance of you're right, they're wrong. That can't happen. It needs to just be accepting. You need to go, okay, I was born here into this upbringing, I have this belief. They weren't. So I can't expect them to think exactly as I think. But unfortunately, we're all very opinionated, and we all think we're right because of our parents or whatever. And that just is what leads to problems. So I think educating people on religion is an important thing, but just don't try and make it look like one has preferential treatment. Try and put them across the board as equal and give people the choice. What religion would you like to believe in or not? Do you want to be atheist? That's my thoughts.
I bet you think I'm going to say no, but I'm actually going to 100% agree with you.
Fuck me.
100%, because people, I'm very vocally anti-religion, but I'm anti-religion based on a knowledge base of every religion. I have researched. I have an A level in religious studies, and that wasn't the E.
I was going to say.
No, the E was in product design. Again, Mr. Nash, fuck you. I made a conscious choice when I was younger because I was I wasn't like whipped if I didn't go, but I was forced to church when I was younger. And I was a little shit. One of the ones that they hate because I questioned everything. You know, I didn't just take everything at face value. It would be, okay, why? Why do we do this? Why do we do that? And I was also one of the little shits that read the Bible. Now, if any religious person can read the Bible cover to cover and still be religious, they are in denial. Because that thing is full of utter bullshit. Like, that was actually what switched me, because I was just sort of go, yeah, fine, sing a couple of songs and that. I didn't really care. I was never properly religious, but I was okay with it. I would have probably classed myself as Christian. After reading that book, no. There's a lot of shit in there. Like, people use the cherry picking sort of argument a lot, and you have no fucking idea. It's not so much cherry picking as like a needle in a haystack. You have to sort of have blinkers on to so much shit in order to find the little bit that you can apply to your life and tell gay people that they're abominations. I mean, this is going to turn to a religious rant now, but
here we go.
It's like people don't know. I mean, it's a little bit more common knowledge now, but in the same verse in Leviticus, where it says, "Thou shalt not lie with a man as he does with a woman," which isn't even strictly the right translation, because obviously originally it's Hebrew, so it doesn't actually say that. I'm not going to go into that, but it doesn't actually say that. In that same passage, it says you must never shave your beard. You must never have tattoos. You can't eat shellfish, and you must stone your wife if she's bad.
Yeah.
Now, why do you only pick the one bit? It's because you have an inherent hate of gay people, isn't it?
Yeah.
Be honest. It is. I see you eating those shrimps, you little scamp. So, yeah, but 100% it should be taught because people should have access to all the knowledge that they want to have. And then they come to their own conclusions, exactly as Dan said. I would, if I was more ignorant, I would probably still class myself as Christian had I not been a little shit asking why. God. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm not calling Christian people ignorant, but I'm just saying.
I think you are.
Well, sort of. But I think it's the same thing as, like you said, where people just follow what their parents say.
Of course.
I mean, they're hypocrites. I'm a Man United fan. I wouldn't fucking do that by choice. But, yeah. I mean, I understand that I'm a little bit weird, where I have to know all the factors about something before I can make a decision on it. Mm. But I think that everyone should have at least access to that information, i.e., don't ban it in schools. There shouldn't be such a thing as censorship in schools, really. Mm. Within reason, again, extremism and stuff like that. Yeah, no, but everyone should have access to all the information they want to have access to. Whether or not they use it and what decision they make is not up to the teachers or anyone or even the government. They can't tell you what to think, even though they do try. But yeah, that was a very long-winded way of saying yes, Dan. I agree. But there you go.
You need some context, though. It's a podcast.
Yeah,
I like it.
Sexual education should be mandatory in schools.
I'll let you go first on this.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
I would say yes, and I'm going to be quite candid now. I get very uncomfortable talking about anything to do with that sort of realm, and it comes from a lack of knowledge because I was never taught it. I've sort of found my way around such topics in my life. I've got really, really careful how I word all this, but
Pornhub.
No.
Cornhub, sorry.
No, but yes.
But yes.
So because of a distinct lack of education when I was younger. We had a little bit in secondary school, and I distinctly remember watching my form tutor roll a condom over a cucumber. And I learnt nothing from that other than I never wanted to see that happen again. It's just backwards and very old hat, and like it's such an open topic in society now that I think that it should be introduced in some vein in school. Obviously not. It's a difficult topic because you have to then assert what age it's appropriate to introduce certain things to certain people. Mm-hmm. I don't agree with being completely open about it because then it just skews people's mindset of it. Mm-hmm. I don't particularly like how open people are about it now, but then that's a personal preference because I'm not very comfortable about talking about it. But yes, it should be mandatory, I think, because it's such an important part of everyone's lives. And I think it would stop things like people being in the closet for as long as they can be. Yeah. If that they were sort of told at a young age, it's okay. People are going to take the piss, but people are going to take the piss whichever side of the fence you sit. Yeah. It's a taboo topic that's becoming less taboo, and people find it hilariously funny to talk about it. So I think that you should be more okay with it from a younger age, and I think it would stop a lot of problems happening.
Yeah, I like that. I know when we did sex ed at school, it was, it was poor. I learnt more real useful information from my best friend growing up, who was 4 years older than me. So, but I met him when I was 8 years old. We became best mates then. He was 12. He lived down the road from me, and we were just like glued. So I learnt everything 4 years ahead of time. So I was then going into these sex ed classes and asking the most awkward questions I possibly could. Like my favourite one was, when a man comes inside a woman, sir, does it just fall out? And I knew the answer. I knew it didn't. Well, it dribbles, but it depends. But anyway, sorry, Taylor, that's an uncomfortable one, but regardless. I loved the fact that I made the whole room go, because they didn't even know what I just asked. They didn't even understand that. But I got a bit of a foot up in education through a friend. But yeah, again, was it positive? No. Did I start watching porn at like 9 years of age? Yes. Did that help me? No. That's for sure. Definitely there should be much better blocks at letting kids access that kind of stuff, because Jesus Christ. Terrible.
And judging by your dating history, I know which category is your favourite.
Oh no, there is an absolute plethora.
I'm sure there is.
I've been through a few. But yeah, there should be a better structured way of educating sex in schools. When should it start? The Dutch system, they teach them from the age of 5, and they have some of the lowest underage pregnancy rates in the whole of the world. So the fact they are so open and discussing a bit, and you can go see a woman wearing bugger all at the red light district, I don't agree with that, but it's open. It's not taboo. And it means that people can just converse without being fearful of judgment. And I think that's the important part. People are scared of being judged for it. Just let them say what they want to say.
Yeah.
You know?
It stems from the whole, we spoke about it in the last one, the sort of stiff upper lip, conservative with a small c type country that this country is. It's just things that are taboo will remain taboo in general, even if there are subsets of the sort of the population that go against those subsets. I don't think it'll ever change it wholly, if you know what I mean.
Indeed.
Well, you look how long it took to get gay marriage. It's only happened in the last 20 years or so, hasn't it? That it's been legal.
Yeah, of course.
In terms of marriage as an actual marriage, not a civil partnership, obviously. But yeah, it's weird. Anyway, that's the end of health because I feel slightly sick. So we're going to... Education, not health. Education. Told you. Yeah. Know what I'm doing. Professional. We're going to move on to technology now. So I get the feeling that me and Dan are going to disagree on a lot of this. But okay, so the first topic is social media has improved human I'll try that again. Social media has improved human communication. Discuss.
In some ways, yes. In a lot of ways, no. What it's done is it's highlighted the tribalism of humanity. It's allowed the two opposing sides of any topic to just fucking butt heads constantly. And that is not useful because people are too emotional. They're not discussing the logical parts of it and the facts of it. They're just going, here's my opinion, I'm right, you're wrong, you're a prick. Nobody cares, right? Nobody cares. Or at least they fucking shouldn't. You are wasting a lot of time. Imagine if you just stopped debating nonsense opinions and you just focused on facts. And you were willing to be open-minded enough to say, my opinion is an opinion, I am welcoming change. The world would be a bloody beautiful place. But social media, where you've got influential figures that all of a sudden have got 2 million followers, and you've got some susceptible 14-year-old that goes, I kind of like the people that follow him. He's well respected. But the other side of that fence is he's fucking hated, this influential person. Social media means that you feel braver voicing a nonsensical opinion, therefore the communication has degraded. But fundamentally it's brought the whole world closer. We now know about atrocities in Ukraine happening way ahead of schedule. We would never have had that 50 years ago. We know about so many things quicker in this day and age, and when we can kind of catch out people doing things, potentially governments doing things incorrectly or whatever, and then lying about it, thanks to mobile phones and smartphones and social media, we can now catch them out and know what the truth is a bit sooner. So some communication's improved, a lot of it's got worse, is my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, in the literal sense of the word, yes, it has improved human communication. Of course it has. It's enabled people to connect. You know, I can text my friend in America. I can talk to my friend in America without spending 50 quid on a text. So yes, in the literal sense of the word, yes, it has improved human communication. What it's also created, like Dan said, is these echo chambers where people will just reinforce misinformation. You know, the whole, we spoke about it last time with the vaccines, where the anti-vax, the entire anti-vax movement is based on a misquote from a doctor. But what social media has enabled is all these people who would have been, you know, if it's 1 in a million that believe this bullshit, that the likelihood of those two people crossing paths and two people having the same opinion naturally would be so thin and unlikely that they would be seen as the idiots they are. But now, because that 1 in a million, they can hop onto a Facebook group, anti-vaxxers against vaccines or whatever the fuck they'd call it, and they can find 3,000 people that all think like them, and they all just reinforce their own delusion. And I think that you can apply that to anything. You know, extremism. Extremism's seen a massive uptick since social media because it's easy to reach out to people who are easily manipulated. And it's made a lot of things a lot easier that it is not a good thing. I think that society's reliance on social media is such a bad thing. You know, this is coming from someone whose job it is to run social media accounts. So, but then I don't really use social media in my personal life. Because I don't think that everyone needs to know what I'm doing every minute of the day. And I also think no one's fucking interested. Do you know what I mean? I much prefer human interaction. I would rather go and, you know, whether it be a phone call or a FaceTime, yes, okay, that's a form of social media, I suppose. But I would much prefer to go and see someone than just talk to them over social media. Gotcha. But I think of course, it's helped a lot of things in society, but I think it has also amplified a lot of bad sides of society as well. So, yeah, on the fence with that one.
Nice.
Oh, fucking hell.
We've already had a half-hour chat about this, and it
wasn't even on camera.
No.
The development of artificial intelligence will help humanity.
You go first.
Me go first?
Yeah.
Yes, it will. However, I think that it sort of stems from the social media thing. It's an access to information, isn't it? My problem with AI comes when it becomes a reliance. If people rely on it, then it opens a door for a fucking plethora of problems to arise. Because artificial intelligence is by definition artificial. It learns from what it's told. Mm-hmm. And if there was a nefarious sort of group behind an AI that became very popular that was feeding it information that would push an agenda, and people would take whatever AI said at face value, then it would create an enormous problem, because you've got the disconnect between the truth and what people believe are true. And if a reliance comes from an AI, then it stops people having their own thought, because they think that this AI will know everything, and therefore they will take whatever it says as gospel. So yeah, my main issue with it is not AI as a concept. I think it's fascinating. I think it's amazing that you can, you know, like ChatGPT, it can learn from the entire internet. But even ChatGPT has limits. You have to limit it in order for it to not spread intentional misinformation. Because there was a guy called Alex O'Connor. I don't know if you've ever heard of him. No. He's a British guy, young guy. He makes some really interesting YouTube videos. If you haven't checked him out, check him out. And he was one of the first people to put on video talking to ChatGPT as if it's a person. Basically interviewing ChatGPT once they introduced this sort of thing where you can talk to it audibly. I mean, not through messages. And he managed to trick it into lying to him.
Yeah.
And so I can't remember the context of what he did, but it then started tripping over itself. So there are limitations to it, but I know that some people will take whatever it says and think that is just what gospel. You know is gospel and is true. And I don't think that a future where that is the case with everything, whether it be imagery, you know, there's already across social media, because obviously things like YouTube and that I spend a lot of time on, not the traditional social medias so much, but there's already a sort of movement against AI because of the misleading nature of what it can provide. This is where me and Dan have a sticking point. I don't think it's as much of a sticking point as we make it out to be, to be honest. But I think Dan is a lot more optimistic. I'll let him speak for himself in a minute. But Dan is a lot more optimistic with what artificial intelligence can sort of mean for the future. I'm a bit more pessimistic in that what it could turn into. But yeah, there you go.
I like it. The development of so the question, will it help humanity? In some ways, yes. I think in terms of based on the capitalist structure that we're all living under, yes. It's going to make things be completed quicker. If more things are completed quicker, you are progressing forward. I completely agree with you about the fact that people shouldn't be typing in a command to AI and going, whatever this thing chucks out is truth. That I don't believe. But then my argument to that is that the problem's not the AI. It's the individual using it. You need to change your mindset, because again, a problem by definition is a human construct. AI, for example, if we removed all emotion and stuff and AI took over humanity, but then it allowed this planet to be a life-giving planet for longer, and then it managed to explore the universe and gain more information about life in and of itself, i.e. cosmology, etc. Where did time begin? All those kind of very philosophical questions. Then I love AI. Because you can't send a human being 30,000 light years away to go and learn something, because it would be dead. But AI, chuck something that's relatively intelligent as a robot, a lifeless form, send it into galaxies and learn stuff. Brilliant. That helps humanity, because we're not dying in the process trying to learn it. So from a humanity perspective in that way, I think yes, it will advance us. I think it will help. Does it have risks? Of course it has risks. And the risk actually isn't the AI. The risk is us and the way in which we will greedily abuse it. That's the fucking problem with our AI, is us, the creators of it. So, yeah, I certainly don't think that it's going to be the answer to all of our problems. Nowhere near. Because we are the problem, right? Fundamentally. Because there's too much variation and difference of opinion and all this sort of nonsense. But yeah, fundamentally, all in all, I think it will help humanity until somebody abuses it. And then it's going to fuck everything. That's my stance.
I have a funny story about AI, actually. I watch a guy online. He's called Thor. Pirates of Software is his channel. And he used to work for Blizzard. He now works for Amazon Game Studios. So Blizzard are the ones who make Fortnite and everything like that. Yeah. And he was telling a story of where they were having a company picture taken with someone from the industry. I can't remember who it was. And they had these rings that they had to put on. So he put this ring on, and it had an extra sort of like a finger that came out. And the reason they did it is so that if that person or the picture itself became contentious, they could claim it was AI.
Really?
Because they had an extra finger.
Oh, I see. Sneaky little bastards.
Yeah.
Isn't
So,
it?
yeah, I just thought that was quite funny that they're already doing anti-AI AI sort of, yeah.
Protections.
Exactly.
One last little point on that. When you mentioned about it pushing an agenda, have you seen the Alexa thing in the American politics?
Yes. Yeah, where it will like sing the praises of Kamala Harris but won't talk about Trump.
Yeah. I mean, now that, fuck me, Amazon, sort your shit out. You can't say that you're an agendaless business brand that has got more influence over the globe than most countries do, right? Yeah. You can't go pushing agendas like that. That's not cool.
No. This is where my libertarianism comes out.
People are innately fucking dumb. And I'm including myself in that. Please don't think I'm sitting on some sort of bloody white horse here. No. I'm an idiot. I know what I am, and I'm fine with it. It's the people that think that they're all righteous and perfect that cause the fucking issues. But if people hear their Alexa telling them that Kamala's got all these positives, but they won't discuss Trump because it goes against Amazon's policies, I mean, it's just ridiculous. You're going to get people making really bad choices, or potentially bad choices, because they're misfed information. So yeah, there you go. Bloody AI.
Yes. Individuals should own their own DNA.
Is that a question?
Yeah.
Is that sorry, where's this under... Who's questioning that?
Well, I think what this is referring to is the bit of a scandal that happened a couple of years ago when people realised that when they were sending their DNA into these sort of ancestry type businesses, they would then store that DNA and make it available to things like the police and Homeland Security and things like that. Wow. So what they were saying is that you can't, without, it's a massive invasion of privacy in order for someone to give you this in order to provide a service, and then it can potentially hinder them in future life. If it's known that they store all this DNA, and they do have a deal. I don't know if it's this country or America, but they do have some sort of agreement with the police to provide them with DNA samples should they need it. So I think that is what it's referring to, if that helps.
Yeah, oh, wow, now that brings more... I'm going to be completely on the fence here now. Fundamentally to the question, should we own our own DNA? I mean, it's not even a fucking question. Yes, it's ours. What do you mean? It's your fucking DNA. Of course it's yours. But if you're going to give it to an organisation or another individual, and within their terms and conditions it says they can use it in a way that we may not like, if you then go and give them the DNA, you're the only one to blame. No one made you give it to them. Nobody held a gun to your head and went, you must give them DNA. You went, I want to know about my ancestry, so take my DNA so I can learn that. Well, here's the repercussions. Now, granted, if it's being sold to you in a way of like, your information is safe with us, we're not going to share it, and then they do, then you're not the fool. Then fair fucks, you've got a right to be annoyed at them. But owning DNA, yes, you own your own DNA. No company, government, anything should be owning your DNA unless you sell it to them. If it's a transactional situation and you go, look, I will accept that you can use my DNA in any way in which you see fit, but I require to receive $1 million, pounds, whatever the fuck you want, then, it's a transaction. You know where you stand. But without that being clear at the beginning, I would say that sounds very risky for society.
Yeah. I just want to bring it back to what you said then about people being the problem in the ancestry thing. I don't think that it would be on people's minds. I know that I can safely say that 99% of people don't read full terms and conditions. And that is quite easily provable by that story in America last week where a guy, I think his wife died or got injured at a Disney park, tried to sue them, and they said, no, you've got a Disney Plus subscription, therefore you forfeit the right to sue us.
Yeah.
No one would be signing that if they knew that, and not everyone has the time to read 86 pages of legal drivel. So I disagree on, and when Apple put that you sold their soul to them if you signed their, they did it as a test, didn't they, to see if anyone read terms and conditions, and it was in there for like 6 years.
Jesus.
That if you agreed to Apple's terms of service, you sold your soul to them or something like that.
Fucking hell.
So I disagree fundamentally on that because no one reads them.
But again, the problem isn't that. That's not the T's and C's fault. The problem again is that people don't bother reading them. I know it's a faff, and I don't read them, but I accept the repercussions for my laziness. If I'm not going to bother reading information which is readily available because I'm too lazy, then I'm the one who's fucking myself. And just hold your hands up and go, yeah, I shouldn't have signed up to that if I don't have the time to read it and I care about what happens afterwards. Yeah, I know.
Fundamentally, you're right, but realistically, you're wrong, I would say.
I think you would say emotionally I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I guarantee that I would say 99% of the people who work for these businesses don't know what's in that terms and conditions, and they write the fucking stuff. Do you know what I mean? I think when you're talking realistically, no one's going to read every word of terms and conditions. You can't do it, or you'd spend your life doing it. Yeah. So the fact that they put these sort of nefarious clauses in there, hidden in there, they're not obvious, they're not in bold, do you know what I mean? It's shitty, fuck you. But yes, you should own your own DNA, because it's literally you. So
I think the solution for that is a governmental change and a lawful change, that any serious like T's and C points where it will jeopardise an individual's privacy or well-being, they should have to be the first points that are highlighted. Yeah. That is what should be changing in terms of the law behind terms and conditions.
All the terms and conditions that apply to something that isn't directly related to the product or service you're providing.
Really? Yeah, I mean, because that's insane, the Disney one. I did see that TikTok or that reel or whatever it was, and I was just like, wow. That shows the power of companies, but also it does highlight the ignorance and the laziness of the average individual. You're right, 99% won't bother. That's because 99% of us are fucking lazy. Yeah. Me included.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, of course it stems from laziness, but I don't think it's realistic to expect people to read every word of terms and conditions for everything they ever do. It's not. That's not the case. Right. Humans should invest in technology to explore and colonize other planets.
Yeah.
You think yes?
1,000,000% yes.
Okay,
Only because there has been approximately, let's say the Earth was an earthly planet, roughly about 6 billion years ago, is when it kind of formed to have an atmosphere, etc., and then life started to build upon it. We have no control over that little rock, as much as we might like to think that we do. We don't really. We can make it worse, granted, but we can't definitively guarantee it being stable forever. That we can't do. So, because we are very egotistical, selfish animals that want to try and survive, as every animal is, it wants to live, you need to try and find a way of allowing that life form to live for as long as possible. Because that's just our innate kind of greed and selfishness, right? If we don't invest in things that allow the safety and the future of humanity, because humanity is not linked to Earth, it's not necessary to be on Earth, that's just all we know up to this point. If someone said to me, there's a planet within 20 years of travel, you can jump on a rocket and go there, then it's going to be safe for X amount of time. There's, 1/10 of the population. Mate, I'd go. I'd love to experience new shit like that. I think it'd be incredible. But yes, the unknown normally is scary. But I like it. I think if you can remove that kind of fear of it going wrong and just say, yeah, it might go wrong, can't control it, but let's go and learn. I think I think Musk has kind of got it. We're not going to be able to future-proof this planet, so we may as well try and find other alternatives. And I find it exciting, but that's just my subjective opinion, that one.
My thoughts on it are, I think we should go down before we go up.
Interesting. Okay.
Humans live on something like 15% of the entire planet because the rest of it's fucking water. So why would you not explore the possibility of living in that first? Because A, it's cheaper, and B, there's less barriers in the way, i.e. a 3-year fucking rocket ride. Do you know what I mean? I think that we should utilise what our planet can offer first, because fundamentally they're the same level of difficulty to achieve. Because
maybe, I don't know.
What do you mean? Why maybe?
I'm not a scientist. I couldn't.
No,
tell
but
you.
okay. Neither am I, funnily enough.
Love that.
But yes, okay. Under the water, you have to deal with things like the pressure, like tides and currents and things like that.
Krakens, megalodons.
Yeah, all of that, definitely. In the same way that when you go to another planet, you have the distance, you have the lack of resources. Basically, any resources you need, you would have to take with you. I think that I think the money should be put into living. If you want to find an alternative living situation to on land as standard, then I think underwater would be not easier necessarily, but I think a more beneficial.
It's more convenient.
Way of doing it now, because you're not starting from zero, which you would be on another planet.
Interesting.
But the network is the same, because there's no planet in our solar system that is habitable as standard. So you're going to have to build a society from scratch, basically. Every single little bit. There's no way that you can exist outside without the equipment needed. In the same way you would need a spacesuit on Mars. In the same way you would need a diving suit under the water. You can't be outside of this society you've built without special equipment. So I think that the fundamentals of it are the same.
Yes. The only thing that I've got in terms of any information is there's Musk's theory on basically re-kickstarting the atmosphere on Mars. Because Mars had life on it, definitively. We know there was water on there, running water. If there's running water, then there's a form of life, microbes and stuff. Not human.
Bacterially, yes, there was, yeah.
Not human life. But with more science, more learning, more development, and quite frankly, more failures, that's how you learn, then I think that we could eventually get to the scientific knowledge and understanding to turn a planet like Mars into a habitable planet. But his method is basically nuking the core. He believes that if you did that, you would reheat it enough to then change the atmospheric pressures and stuff so that it would then be habitable. Now, again, I am regurgitating words there. I'm no fucking wizard. I'm not a scientist. I don't claim to be. I don't want to be. But I do find it interesting because I get the fundamentals. I get all the premises of it. I just couldn't tell you how you build a nuke and how you get to the centre of Mars to bloody blow it up in there. Couldn't tell you. Don't know.
Yeah, when
don't
you
really
realise that we've only got through like 0.5% of the Earth's crust.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy.
That's the longest we've ever dug. So how the fuck are we going to get to the core of Mars?
Because
Because it's too hot. You can't go anywhere near it.
well, a human wouldn't. You wouldn't need to. You want to send the...
No, you can't send a machine that low. I think it was the Russians did it, and I think that they dug 13 miles into... It's only a hole like that.
Yeah.
And they sent down, the amount of technology you would need, titanium drill bit, all this sort of stuff, diamonds, fucking shit like that. It melted.
Yeah.
13 miles.
Yeah.
30,000 miles across or something like that.
Yeah.
And we got 13.
Yeah.
So I think this is what I mean, where the roadblocks in place are huge, whichever way you go.
Yeah.
Whichever, up or down. I just think that it's a bit easier out of the two to go down.
Makes sense.
Because we already have things, there's those high pressure divers that will fix the drills on oil rigs and shit like that. Scariest fucking job ever. But we already have the technology in order to be able for them to exist at that sort of depth for extended periods of time. We don't have the technology at the minute for someone to exist on another planet for the time it would take to build a society.
No, currently, yeah.
So, yeah. Anyway, we rambled for ages on that. Unless you had any other points.
No, I just like I like all this topic.
Yeah,
it's
no,
nice.
Good.
Yeah.
Governments should invest in alternative energy sources.
Well, they already are. I don't know what.
Okay, let's reword it. Governments should invest more in alternative energy sources.
Oh God! Again, here's my problem. Because I'm not researching it and I just get drip-fed little bits of information through social media, I do not watch the news. I do not try and absorb any sort of news through social media. So all of my algorithms are pointed towards just information, more science stuff, more like philosophical stuff is what I tend to get, or just absolutely nonsensical humour. But I don't trust any source that I've been given so far for whether what we're doing to the planet by traditional fossil fuel means is killing it or not. I don't really know for sure. I'm assuming all the science that I've heard leads me to believe that yes, we are having a pretty heavy negative impact by using these things, but we don't have a very good solution to cover it yet. I think Musk did mention one again to do with the sun's energy. There is like a system that he believes in terms of the number crunching he's done. It works, but I don't trust him. I don't know him. Why would I trust him? So I really don't know whether it is worth governments pushing for that. I would rather they focused on making the planet more harmonious than just, environmentally safe. I'd rather there was less war, there was less unnecessary death. I'd rather that existed first if the government's going to put money into something than I would into climate change. But yeah, I'm pretty much on the fence with that one. I would say yes, just emotionally. But logically, I'm not really in a position to give a really good opinion.
I'm in a very similar position to Dan. I haven't extensively researched any of this, but I think the ultimate alternative energy source is nuclear. And anyone who disagrees with me, I'd love to hear the other side of it, because I don't think that you could cover this country in windmills, and it would probably, I don't know how much it would produce, but I guarantee you could more efficiently produce energy by using a nuclear power station and a nuclear reactor. Yes, okay, we know what happened at Chernobyl. Chernobyl was a perfect storm of problems that all mounted to that thing exploding.
Yeah.
The amount of moving parts that had to go wrong before something like that happened. And remember, we're talking about technology from the 70s. Yeah. Chernobyl blew up in 1984. So you think of how much technology has moved on. We've found a way to contain Chernobyl now.
Yeah.
And it was relatively simple, but we didn't have access to the technology in the 80s in order to prevent it. So I think that with modern technology, plus nuclear, I don't know if you know this, nuclear the fuel rods are 90% recyclable.
Really?
Yeah, so if you make 100, you recycle them, you get 90 back.
Wow.
There's a company in France, I can't remember the name, there's a company in France that do it. They basically monopolise that industry, but they're very fucking good at it. So yeah, in terms of, yes, okay, there's downsides to everything. If things go wrong, things go wrong. That's just the way of life.
Yeah.
But I think the upsides far outweigh the downsides when it comes to it. It's so much cleaner. The only byproduct of it, bar the 10% of nuclear waste which has to be buried. Okay, yes, that's bad. The only byproduct of actively doing it is water vapour.
Is that it?
That's all that's produced, other than the nuclear waste, because obviously it's the steam towers, isn't it? You just use the nuclear fission to heat water, and then the steam drives a generator. That's how a power station works, obviously, in the same way that they burn coal to heat water to spin a generator.
Yeah.
It's far more efficient, it's far cleaner, and there's less of an impact. Even with that nuclear waste, there's still less of an environmental impact from it than running coal power stations. That's just the way it is. Because I don't think, realistically, in my lifetime, alternative energy in terms of wind, wave, water, anything like that, is going to be abundant enough to run the country. I think it provides something like, it's between 2 and 5% at the minute. But our energy consumption is ever growing and will probably ever grow until it reaches a breaking point, whether that be war or, we literally can't produce enough. Because I think I'm right in saying that we only have in this country a 2% tolerance.
What do you mean tolerance?
Any given point, we only produce 2% more power than we actively use at any given moment.
Wow.
So if there's a surge, that's why there's power cuts.
Yeah.
Because we literally don't produce enough. We run with such fine margins in this country. But I don't think you'd need to with a nuclear solution. If you replaced every coal-fired power station with nuclear, we'd produce an abundance of fucking energy. Because they run 24 hours a day. You don't need to replace... They need replacing so infrequently. And even when you do, the recycling rate... You can't recycle coal. Once it's burnt, it's burnt. That's it.
No.
So, yeah, in terms of alternative energy, I'm very much team nuclear when it comes to that, because it's just,
Fascinating. Well, I've just learned 3 things in your speech there. And I'm assuming most of you will learn as well. It's cool.
Sad and no life. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies should be encouraged.
Oh, God. Here's my problem. I've got some money in them. Do I know what they are? No. Have I tried to research what they are? No. I am lazy as fuck. It's one of my massive negative traits. But the predicament, I guess, if I hear about a multi-millionaire putting 50% of his net worth into a concept like cryptocurrencies, he's far more intelligent than I am. I'm going to follow the leader. And I've done it, but I never risked an amount in that world that it could cripple me and my family financially. I put my savings in, and it wasn't all of my savings, it was just some of them, because I wanted to see what would happen. And I think it's gambling, isn't it, fundamentally? For the ignorant people like me, I'm just using cryptocurrency to turn my money into more money. The people that really understand, like the blockchains, the way that crypto works fundamentally in terms of its practical application for life, apparently it's like the best thing we've ever created, according to some of these people. But like I say, I'm ignorant. I haven't researched it enough to have a valid opinion. But my current stance is, if the people of Musk, Tate, all these billionaires and whatever, if they've got a lot of money invested in this concept, they don't want to lose their money because they are ego maniacs and capitalist hungry fools. But not fools as in stupid, just that's all they care about is money. So if I'm trying to find a way to make more money, I'll follow the people that are good at that. So that's my only stance on it. I honestly couldn't say if it should be banned or encouraged. Yeah.
No, I don't think it should be encouraged, personally. I think that something relies on human nature is inherently a bad thing. Because humans are, by design, lazy. Not lazy, selfish.
Yeah.
They are selfish. If the creators of the cryptocurrency, if it wasn't bettering them, they wouldn't do it, frankly. And you've seen a plethora of the bad side of cryptocurrencies with all the pump and dump schemes. That you are relying on the good nature of whoever's made this coin, because it's not regulated. It's not, it's becoming slightly more socially acceptable to pay for things with cryptocurrency, but it's still not a mainstream thing. And I don't think it will ever be, because it's too fickle. You look at FTX, the second biggest trading platform ever, And that man Sam Bankman-Fried was making money hand over fist, and yet it still wasn't enough. Greed led to the downfall of FTX.
Yeah.
And FTT, their own coin, which Binance, which is the other big one,
Platform for buying.
They had something like $1 billion in FTT. They sold it all because they saw what the fuck Bankman-Fried was doing, and that's what crashed FTX.
Right.
And something like that, where you can just one company can just dissolve billions of dollars instantly, is not something that should be encouraged. Especially on the lower... I know you mentioned people like Tate and Musk. The difference with them is they're not betting their entire net worth against it. They're not relying on it for their future. If they lose that money, yes, it'll piss them off. Yeah. It's not going to bankrupt them.
No.
So they can be more frivolous with it because they can afford to be frivolous with it. People like you or me, for example, can't afford to do that. They can't afford to potentially lose everything.
But don't put everything in. That's the answer, isn't it?
This is what I'm saying, though, because a lot of people would have and do and have lost everything because of it. Yeah. I think if you want a hedge against inflation, which is basically what this is, it's a gamble, isn't it? Like you said, it's gambling in order to try and better yourself. If you want a hedge against hyperinflation, buy bullion. Invest in stuff like that because that goes with the inflation. You know, gold has been on an upward trend for most of its existence. Yes, there's been dips in everything, but it's the same way I would never buy traditional stocks or stock options because it's too dangerous. It relies on other people, whereas gold, yes, okay, it relies on people to sort of obtain its inherent value. Yeah. But it's had an inherent value since its existence, whereas things like stock options have been around for, let's say 100 years, for argument's sake. Cryptocurrencies have been around for about 10 minutes. And I just think that there are better ways that people can better themselves if they have the disposable income in order to invest. I don't think doing it with something as fickle and easy to corrupt as cryptocurrency is the way to do it.
Would you say that cryptocurrency is more corrupt or less or the same as traditional money and the governments that run them? I say money, I meant currency. Sorry, currencies,
Well, the difference is that you have, I suppose you have national currency, don't you? So you're relying on an entire country as opposed to a bloke running one business.
But the entire country doesn't control, for example, the UK, we don't control the pound. There's a treasurer that controls basically whether inflation exists or not.
Yeah, in the Bank of England,
They just print more or print less. And then
if you want to go down to the thing, we don't own our own currency. No. There's only 2 national banks in the world that aren't owned directly by the Rothschild family. So if you want to strip it back to that, it relies on the Rothmans, not the Rothschilds, not being a complete twat. But you have an infinite level of data in which the standard currencies have been stable. You don't have that with cryptocurrency. You don't have. You don't.
That we've got stable currencies. How have we had so many financial depressions and?
A depression where the pound loses, say, even if the pound lost, what did it lose when we left the European Union? Like 15% of its value, something like that, against the dollar?
Which made...
Something like that.
Made 50,000 people homeless. They had to lose their mortgages, their kids didn't get fed.
So your pound went from being worth, let's say, $1 to 85 cents. It wasn't that extreme. Your FTX token went from being worth £10,000 to nothing. Instantly.
Of course. I appreciate if you look at the extreme examples of each, then the crypto's a lot more negative. But if you were to put some sort of regulation in there, not where a government can control it or one man is basically manipulating the price, but if you do introduce a better framework, then I think that it has a better chance of being fairer for the everyday person than current currency does. Because we know what normal pounds, dollars, yen do, and we know how it impacts the everyday person. And a lot of people are fucking poor. A lot of people can't afford to really do what they want to do or what they need to do. So I think that the existing currency system that we've all been living under has failed us because we created it. Of course it failed us. And we're probably going to see variations of the same with the cryptos, but very, very interesting thing to keep an eye on for me.
Well, my thought about crypto is it's never going to become fully mainstream because governments can't control it.
Well, until governments aren't relevant anymore.
Well, yeah, it's all hypothetical, but in its current guise, it will never be mainstream. Therefore, it will never be relegated. Therefore, it will never be safe. Simple as. I think that there are the ceiling's a lot higher with something like crypto over something like gold, but the floor is also a lot lower. So I put in. Obviously, this is all personally. I'm not shitting on the idea completely. I just wouldn't do it. Because I wouldn't put something in that I couldn't trust, where I didn't have sufficient data that my money is not going to be worth at least what I put in a year's time.
Try saying that to people who had Northern Rock accounts back in 2008.
Yeah. No, I get like you say. There are outliers and extremes, of course there are, but you can't equate for all of them. I just think that based on the data, that there's a far higher likelihood that crypto is going to go very wrong.
Yeah.
It's less likely that a national currency or something like gold is going to go very wrong.
Yeah.
Because of historical data. That's my thoughts.
Like
I'm going to skip that one because we basically spoke about it.
Yeah.
Cell phone radiation is dangerous and should be limited.
I know nothing. I've never looked. I've heard stories. I've heard about 5G killing bees and killing people's brain cells and blowing up pigeons. I don't fucking know. It's news, and I don't trust news. So unless I'm going to bother investing my time into researching that, I honestly don't want to be one of those guys that just gives a flippant opinion for the hell of it. And I don't. I can see the scientific reasoning for why it's bad. I do comprehend that in terms of the biology aspect. But have I read into it enough to really give a valuable opinion? I would argue no. If I was in the viewer's shoes, I wouldn't listen to my opinion and take any sort of value from it.
I wouldn't listen to any opinion we ever have. But
no, some of our moral ones, mate, I think are very interesting. I think that we do hold some weight to some of our moral arguments and points.
Maybe.
You disagree? I don't know. I think that's all humanity is, isn't it? Really, just opinions. But yeah, on that one, probably, I guess, would be my guess.
No, again, I don't know. I don't know much, but what I would say is that obviously self-phone radiation. I remember the news story coming out where you shouldn't hold it against your head for too long because of the radiation to it. But a lot of people don't anymore. Do you know what I mean? How often do you now make a phone call where you hold it to your ear?
I try not to.
Exactly. Well, yeah, I understand that, but I think naturally a lot of people just don't anymore. It's so.
Well, it's all video calls, isn't it? Most people.
Yeah,
I don't
video calls, messaging. All this sort of thing has way taken off from when this was a problem and everyone was holding a mobile phone to their ear. So I think if it was going to be a massive, massive issue, that's lessened naturally as technology's sort of improved. I don't fucking know.
Just see you deflating there as you're communicating the answer.
I didn't know that this was I would have ended on one of the more interesting ones if I'd actually reread these fucking topics. But
well, it is interesting. The topic is still interesting, even if we don't know the answer, because a lot of people apparently have got testicular cancer from it. A lot of people have got other biological issues now and illnesses. So, and there's one study now that says that a mobile phone should never be closer than 4 meters to you. If you wanted to remove all risk of phone signals, you've got to leave it 4 meters away. Well, that doesn't work, does it, considering what the concept is? But, if that's the answer, like, for example, when you're charging your phone at night, you should have it outside of your bedroom, basically. And your alarm should be just a manual alarm clock. That's the healthiest way to do it. But we've all just got these habits that we just think are how it should be done. So we're not willing to change and then create discomfort because we like knowing our habitual situation. Oh no, my phone's only next to me so I can wake up in the morning and watch nonsense. You don't need to. Yeah, most of us do it. But we know it's not good. We all know it's not fucking good. We just do it because we're animals that get little dopamine releases.
I want to be here forever anyway.
Fucking hell, Tay. Say that again.
I don't want to be here forever anyway. What's the fucking point? Don't you know what I mean? Like, average lifespan's like 85 or whatever it is. Mine's about 48, but do you really want to be here for longer than that with a tube up your nose? Fuck it.
I hear what you're saying, yeah. I don't want to live forever, but I'd like to live long enough to see as many unique things I possibly can.
Yeah, but I'd have to leave my bedroom to do that. That's a fundamental change, man. I'm not doing that.
Too big a shift.
Not doing that. There's people about.
Indeed.
Anyway, hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.